Oh, hang on.
You can do the count.
A premium account on Twitter is required to. Oh no, forget that.
Yeah, forget.
We are alive.
We are live.
We are live. Okay, something's gone a little bit awry with that, with the banners and stuff. Okay, look, if we're live, we're live. It's fine. It's come up on mine that we're live. So let's. I'll just turn that down. Right. Okay. Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the Monday night, the belated Monday night edition of Spurs Diehards TTID, Tottenham Till I Die. It's a bit funereal here because the game finished Leicester 1, Tottenham 1, as you'll well know, and it feels as much like a defeat as anything. But before we go on and we get into the game, welcome to, in fact, it's the four main protagonists of this show. First of all, I'm going to introduce somebody who I haven't seen on the show before because of the ridiculous times I broadcast at. But good evening, Chang.
Good evening, everyone. Mr. Math, Mr. Stroker, and of course, last but not least, Queen Ellie. I think it's been a whole month now since I was last together with all of us together. I believe that was mere minutes away from the final between England and Spain. That was that was back in July. And although we had barely a few minutes because I believe Mr. Math had to run off to the pub to watch the final. Queen Ellie, your husband was insisting on using the television to watch the pre-match of that Euros final. But yeah, it's been a good long while, a whole month and some since I was last on. And for this season opener, I could not afford to not be on. Of course, the results could have been a lot better in our favor. It's got to be said. And I was able to watch the second half in its entirety, having woken just minutes before the second half got underway. I was able to see the Pedro Porro goal. It's a very well taken goal. But his defensive frailties in the second half was still very, very evident. It was still very, shockingly obtuse. And he was left exposed for Jamie Vardy's equalizer. He could have been punished a second time in as many minutes when Jamie Vardy was seen bearing down on goal. Thankfully, his shot was very central, very... I wouldn't say it's tame. There was a sting to it, but it was a very comfortable height, and also it wasn't too far off from either post, so it was a comfortable save in the end for Vicario. But Jamie Vardy very nearly doubled his tally in a matter of minutes, thanks once again to Porro's defensive frailties. And looking at that second half, especially when you see Porro hobbling, the substitute coming on far too late for him, I think I felt that the moment he was struggling, Jet Spence should have been brought on straight away. But if there was one moment in that entire second half that perfectly encapsulated this away first day draw at Leicester, it was that last gasp free kick in which Richarlison, with all the time in the world, free header, although it was in a rather acute angle, but the ball was traveling, and unfortunately he just couldn't find either side of the post. The header was all overpowered. It was overhit, and that pretty much sums up our second half and possibly the entire match.
Let me bring in Ellie. Good evening, Queen Ellie.
Yeah.
Queen Ellie, Queen Ellie.
I'm just Queen Ellie at the moment. I don't know who to put my name to. I was told to put my name to Bergvall, but he got a roasting off Vicario, didn't he?
Yeah. And Adrian, good evening to you.
Good evening, Ian. It's good to have all 4 admins, all founder admins of this wonderful Spurs Diehards chat on at once. I think it's for the second time. Yeah, I'm fine. The game, we should have been out of sight at half time. We should have been at least 3 goals to the good. It didn't happen, so it did leave you sort of doubting things a bit, you know. Nice goal that Porro got, although it seemed to glance off his shoulder, but at least Maddison picked him out and come from. Maddison didn't play that badly, actually. Actually, it's hard to pick out players that actually played badly. It's just a lack of urgency. And when we got 1 goal up, we were a bit casual and I played a bit too slow. And if I was going to be critical of any players, it would have been Johnson and Udogie. I know Chang's picked out Porro, even though he scored the goal. We do a justified critique. We don't hate these players, you know. We just want to see them do better. I mean, Udogie, I thought he was sloppy, give a few sloppy balls away in the first half that could have caused us problems. And when you give silly balls away, I mean, you understand if it's like, you know, 50-50 or something like that. But when there's no reason to give a ball away or do a poor pass, you scream at the screen, don't you? Because you think, shit, we're in such a good position now they're breaking on us, you know what I mean, or whatever. But I thought, first half, I couldn't fault the display, a bit more urgency, quicker movement with the ball. We kept trying to walk the ball in the net. We'll be fine. We'll be fine this season. Other teams would have put them to bed by half time, you know. So on that basis, I mean, I don't know if we're just going to talk. I don't know how you're going to do this in, whether we're going to talk about the lineup and then do each half and whatever. How you're going to go with this?
Let's have a look at the team first of all, as we started off. I think that was largely as predicted. I'll bring you in, Ellie. Other than I think most people expected Kulusevski to start and not Johnson, particularly given Kulusevski's form pre-season. Ellie, what do you reckon?
Yeah, that was a shocker, wasn't it? I mean, Kulusevski's been really playing well pre-season and he didn't deserve to be dropped to the bench. Might have been another reason. Maybe he was carrying a knock. We don't know. But when he came on, he made the difference. He was very lively and his skill was sublime. That even the commentator said that was a sublime bit of skill, but he was upended, by the guy who looks a bit like Cucurella with the hair. Right. But I was very concerned about Bentancur as well, because I thought he wasn't getting up. For thank God they've said he's okay. But there was too much faffing, too many passes. We've become Arsenal, but without that cutting edge. You know, like they faff about as well, Arsenal. Too many passes. Just get it in there, for God's sake. You know, and have a bit of vision as well. I like the way Bergvall moves off the ball, though, and I like his intelligence. He made a little bit of a cock-up when he was going back to goal. He was getting pressed, and he lost the ball, and he got a right roasting off the goalie. But I just thought...
We'll come on to the second half, Ellie. Yeah, I'll come on to the second half. Chang, you didn't see a lot of the first half, is that? You didn't see it?
I didn't see the entire first half. I only saw bits and pieces of it when they were replaying the highlights of the first half during the interval. But yeah, I saw enough of those first half highlights to echo Mr. Stroker's sentiment, in which if we had, put a few more away, the game would have been wrapped up by halftime. But, that's the way things go. You don't take your chances. And when you do concede, and you have no reply to the pressure put on by the home team, that's the outcome of the game. I mean, before they scored too, I thought we had some good passages of play. Solanke with an effort also quite tame, but it was an effort nonetheless. There was then follow-up in quick succession by Bentancur. Both of them had shots on target that were easily saved before they then broke at us. And you saw the equalizer. And since that equalizer, it was all Leicester, despite our best efforts to keep them at bay. I thought they were actually looking the more likely of the two teams to score. after that equalizer and that unfortunate concussion injury to Bentancur meant that Big Ange had to reshuffle his midfield. We saw wholesale changes. Bergvall, Archie Gray, Kulusevski, Jet Spence, I think there was someone else. Oh, Werner as well. Werner before, Richarlison came on very late on. That completely threw our rhythm off. We didn't look like really getting back into the game. Although I would have to say this for Kulusevski, Bergvall, and Archie Gray, they tried their best. They at least, did put in a proper shift. And if anything, I thought the goals were, if there was to be a second goal for us, especially in the second half, I thought it was going to come from either one of them. But I was surprised really that Johnson wasn't taken off a lot sooner. I really thought that immediately once they equalized, the likes of Johnson, even Son too, I felt he was rather ineffective on the left-hand side. In fact, there was this one particular moment I thought that we were building up a head of steam and the ball fell to him rather kindly, but for some reason or other, this game in particular, his first touch, his control just deserted him. And yeah, the game went the way it went. And I think we were actually kind of lucky, if you ask me, to get away from there with a point. So let's look forward to Saturday, our 3 p.m. kickoff, if you serves me right, against Everton.
Adrian, there's Mark, one of our admin team. New season, same old Tottenham. Where have we improved? Well, how would you answer that?
How we improved? Well, I mean, to me, the squad. But how we improved? Well, we've brought in 2 proven Premier League players in Odegaard and Solanke. They have done it. Odegaard's at least got 90-minute games under his belt for Burnley, even though they're regulated. Solanke's had a few seasons in the Premier League, so in that respect, we've added to the squad. But to actually show signs of improvement, well, from the team itself, it's going to take more than one game. You can't judge a season on one game. There's 37 games to go, and most teams that go away and get a point are very happy with it. It's just that the way we played in the first half and even in the second half, we had that shaky period. In fact, before Bentancur got injured, then the game swung back in our favour because it seemed to slow Leicester down. But I think the squad's improved. It's improved. I think it's improved with the players we've got. I mean, I can't back that with data with Archie Gray and Bergvall as yet, but I think they're superstars in the making. But the reason I can't back it is because we've yet to see them both play 90 minutes each. But we can't say that about the relatively unknown. You've got another guest coming. The relatively unknown.
Good evening, my good friend Jem Silverstone. Good evening, Jem.
The relatively
good evening to you, Mr. Silverstone, sir.
Can you hear?
Welcome.
Yeah. Hi, welcome, mate.
Welcome.
The relatively unknown Wilson Odegaard, but Solanke. All right, he's not an overwhelming signing, but he's not underwhelming. He's still got 19 goals last season. If he gets 20 for us or 20 plus for us, we'll be more than happy. I mean, because this is a disappointing 1-1 result, the fan base will get very emotional. They normally do. But it's a point. West Ham lost, Chelsea lost. They both lost at home. I mean, like that might not cushion your feelings towards our result today, but it's still it's a good point. I'm disappointed it's not free. It does in a way feel like 2 points dropped, but like it's still a good point. You've got to take the positive from it. That point may be crucial come the end of the season.
Jem, got to take the positives from it, or was it really just same old?
Relegation fight, for sure. At that point, listen, I think it's easy to get carried away. It's important not to overreact, but season's over, isn't it?
Well,
what's most disappointing is that the big players, for me, didn't really turn up. I thought Romero was badly at fault for the goal. Thought Bentancur was poor. Maddison was poor. Son, unfortunately, in that position, he just doesn't contribute enough. I bemoan the fact that back in the day, strikers used to play in pairs, and now there seems to be a tendency towards lone strikers. And, you know, I can't help but feel that if Son and Solanke were together in the middle, they'd be a much more effective pairing. Son was isolated a lot at the end of last season, as was Richarlison. You know, I like to see Richarlison isolated, but not necessarily on the pitch. And I think he proved with that header in the end why the bench is really his position.
Yeah.
You know, he does have a knack for being in the wrong place at the right time.
Maybe a bench in the park would suit him better.
Yeah. Listen, I mean, it's a very disappointing result. And you know, we can't dress it up and say, I don't think we can dress it up and say, look, it's a 0.1, because Leicester are likely to go down. They're a poor team. And they put in a lot of effort, and Steve Cooper's a good manager. He'll get them fired up from time to time, but they don't have anything like the quality that we evidently have. But we have to convert those kind of games. We have to kill them off. You know, I didn't think anybody that was willing to actually have a shot.
Yeah.
We created a lot of chances in the 6-yard box, but it was clear that, you know, it wasn't going for us. So have a shot. You know, there's nobody who's going to take it from the edge of the area, put it in the corner.
I mean, I'll bring out everybody else in, but because you're new and you've just come on, I want to give you a good chance to talk. But just before they scored, we had Solanke had a shot, went for power, whacked it near post. Goalkeeper got a parry to it and saved it. 2 minutes after that, Bentancur has a great chance, goes for power rather than just putting his left foot into the corner. I mean, even despite the first half dominance, either of those goes in, it's 2-0. It's probably game over, Jem.
Yeah, I agree. But they didn't. And on the commentary I was watching, they said with Solanke's shot, you know, he did everything right apart from put it either side of the goalkeeper.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
I think also that it highlighted that we still have a lot of mediocrity in that squad. I'm afraid I don't think that Sarr is good enough. Werner is not the answer to any problem we might have. In my view.
Yeah. Bentancur, I disagree. I thought he was quite tidy the first half. I thought he was being told to sit back and do the Bissouma role and sort of play a bit deeper as a defensive midfielder. And I thought he was very tidy in the first half. I mean, the first half we were okay.
In fairness, they never got near a half in the first half, so he didn't have a lot to do. He was tidy, but you know, he wasn't up against much. And I think he's a very fine player, but I really need to see him being more dominant coming forward, because I think he'd be much more effective coming forward. I'm a bit intrigued by the Bissouma thing, because you'd think that if a player has misbehaved, it's punishing everybody to suspend him for a game. Why not fine him 2 weeks' wages?
Oh, he did. I think he should get a 4-match ban. I feel quite strongly about this. Something like what he did. You broke the manager's trust as well, right? I mean, Ange, he was quite polite in the way he summed it up in his press conference, but he must have been absolutely fuming. He got him last season. He's been late for training, bits and pieces like that. Add a word, try to use a bit of kidology and reverse psychology to G him up. Come on, be a bit mature. Other players will look up to, give him more responsibility. Notice he ain't a vice captain, though, is he? He's not a vice captain in that team.
No, he's not.
So like, you know, I mean, it's all right wandering in with flashy watches, rings and bracelets and necklaces and all that shit. But also, that's fine when you're winning and doing well, but it looked bad. It looked bad when you're not playing well and what happens. Yeah. I think he should have got I mean, I don't know what else will happen, whether that'll be a sole suspension, one game or not.
He should at least take the necklaces off, shouldn't he?
I think the club are lucky that other footballers have been involved in incidents as well, so it sort of cushions the blow and maybe cushions the punishment, because Enzo Fernandez, who got done more for racism, which I think is more serious, you know, than one, it's got off virtually light, you know. So, yeah, I mean, punish the club. Well, you know, he's one of those players to me. I think he's got to shape up. If he doesn't by January, he'll be got rid of.
Ellie, I want to talk about Sonny.
Oh my God.
I can understand any player might go off form, you know, after losing Harry Kane. And I mean, you know, Jem talked about hunting in pairs, which, you know, we were brought up with, you know, Chivers and Gilzine, or Gilzine and Greaves. You know, in our early days, you can think of, you know, Toshak and Keegan and Clark and Jones and what have you. You know, you go through the ages. But Son, since Harry Kane left, and he's, you know, I think he's now 32, is a shadow of the player. And he was really ineffective tonight.
Yeah, he was very ineffective. He's like a lost puppy. He's being asked to play a totally different role that he did with Harry. Because with Harry, we were on the counter attack in team, and it was one over the top for Sonny to run onto, or he would take the ball himself from the middle and drive forward with the ball. But he's just on the wing, and his touch was very poor tonight. It was almost like he was carrying an injury, because it just didn't glue to him, the ball. And every time he went to take somebody on, he checked and passed it back. I mean, that's what Werner normally does, not what Sonny does. We want him to be effective and drive forward and create havoc in that box, because we know he can do it. But whether he can still do it, that's questionable, because I thought they were very weak. Leicester, they were there to be blown over, but we just powder puffed it all the way, and Sonny was the biggest culprit. I thought. I don't like to criticise him, because I do love Sonny, but when critique is necessary, it's necessary, and he was just the touch was not there, and too many times he was checking back, and I just thought he was awful tonight. He didn't offer anything.
All I noticed with Sonny this evening was like, Udogie was trying to get overloads with Sonny down the left. You see it quite a few times. It never come to much. He never got in and got a shot off. I just think it's because he was crowded out more than anything else. But or it passed back, or Maddison would try and make himself available over there as well with Udogie and Son. But he never quite. Having said that, though, we still created loads of threatening chances without scoring in the first half, you know.
Chang, let me bring you in, obviously, as our resident Southeast Asian owner, a channel owner. I actually had it, someone's taken it off. Son is only here for the shirt sales now. He never took his man on once tonight. I mean, that's pretty well echoing what Ellie and Adrian are saying. What was your take on Sonny's performance tonight?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, Son looks completely, I wouldn't say out of his depth. He doesn't look like the Son that we all know and love, and we all feel that he can still be for us. I mean, he showed some glimpses of the old Son during the Asian tour, especially those games in Korea and also in Japan. And ever since the Bayern Munich friendlies, I thought that, you know, he was just he looked quite lost, caught in headlights almost sometimes. And in that second half itself, I mean, some of his his first touches were, I wouldn't say it's atrocious, but the ball just got away from him. And when it really matters most, club captains, or even, you know, your team captains for the day, you should be able to rally the troops, be able to get the lads to muster the courage to go forward, to pull together as a team, to, you know, work for each other. That wasn't evident I didn't see him trying to command that forward line, try to get the midfield gel together. Even when Bentancur was on the ground, and I felt that was possibly the one time where I really needed the club captain, the team captain too, at that for that matter, to put on a rallying cry out to all the players. But I think going forward, Big Ange really has to sort out Son, and if Son isn't performing by the hour mark, especially come Saturday against Everton, something has to be done. Either he goes central, or he gets substituted, or maybe even dropped altogether. I mean, it's not beyond the realms of impossibility. But it's been done before with James Maddison, especially towards the latter half of last season. And Son's no-show, almost like a no-show, if you ask me, especially in the second half. This has to be addressed sooner rather than later, because I would rather him not be the one factor that actually held us back. For me, I think this comment there by Nita, that comment there.
I wanted to pick up Ronnie's comment before I move on, but
especially this one here. Son is not the man to run things in our team. This season he will get some goals, but Solanke and Richarlison need to take over. Solanke, I feel he needs to be that linchpin now for us going forward, especially up top, if that's where the goals are going to be coming from. Because if today's match was anything to go by, I think we are going to find it hard to score if we try to walk the ball into the nets rather than trying to maybe take some half chances on the bounce. But I think the team is going to learn. Hopefully the team will learn from this, and Big Ange is going to have words with a lot of those players, primarily players that Mr. Stroker himself mentioned earlier, the likes of Johnson, Udogie, possibly even Son himself too. But I really do hope the lads bounce back quick. And for me, Saturday can't come sooner enough.
No, that's always the way after a defeat, or even a draw that feels like a defeat. Jem, there's different opinion in the Paxton Road end. Sonny's not the player he was. Or first game of the season, we're out of order calling him out. What do you think?
He's definitely not, and I just don't think he has the speed now to play as a winger, and that's even more of a reason to bring him in alongside Solanke and utilise what he can do, which is that he still has a tremendous shot. He's the guy who can stand on the edge of the area and bang it in, left foot or right foot. And if he's going to have a role, that's got to be his role. What I do think also is we're lacking a captain. We're really lacking a driving force in the middle of the field. And if we were going to spend money anywhere, that's where it needs to be.
And who would you pick then? Who would you buy? I mean, let's assume we got our retro shirts on, both of us. We can't get David Kyle. We can't get Danny Blanchflower. So,
I wish we could.
I would be tempted, and I'm sure people will disagree on this, because I'd love to see Conor Gallagher there. I'd love to see Eze there more than anything. I think he's a really talented player. I don't think he's the answer to that particular problem, but I'd love to see him there. But somebody like McTominay, who is a big physical presence in the middle of the field, I think would complement what is a relatively lightweight midfield and attack for us.
I must say I like McTominay. Ellie, let's bring you back in then. Sonny, first of all, Sonny, and then you can pick up on Jem's point about lacking leadership, because I don't think many people would argue with that.
No, I think Vicario should get it, because he's the most vocal. But the thing is, goalkeepers generally are not giving the captaincy. I know we had Hugo Lloris, but that was an anomaly. I think Romero would be the one. I think who's going to get the captaincy because he's already vice captain. Maddison's too lightweight. He won't moan at anybody. He's too friendly. You need a hard man like Romero. He's like in the Roy Keane mould. He'll tell you off. He'll slap you one. He'll kick you. He'll kick you till tomorrow. Like he's one of those players that I do love him, but maybe we need somebody hard in the midfield as well, not just a captain like Romero. We need someone like Mr. Silverstone said, like someone like McTominay, who's a hard man. He's not the best footballer, but he'll get stuck in. We haven't got enough bite in that midfield. They're all too soft. They're all like pretty boys. We need somebody hard. And McTominay or Conor Gallagher would be a good fit, I think.
Yeah, he has a knack as well of finding that bit of the pitch that's 24 feet wide and 8 feet high as well. McTominay.
Yeah, he can score a goal. He showed it for Man United. So, but will they let him go? That's the problem.
Seem to be willing to let him go. Adrian McTominay, I mean, we're going to talk about transfers, but we're on that subject simply because I think it was a little bit same old tonight with the familiar failings, familiar lack of leadership.
I think the reason we haven't got a different captain is the language thing. I think Ange was very shrewd in appointing Maddison for the English players, Son, for and Romero. I think he mixed the different languages up there with his. It was a clever ploy. It was a bit of psychology used there. If I was going to give it to anyone who's got drive in that midfield, I'd give it to Bentancur personally. But he must be cursing his luck playing at Leicester. That's twice he's been injured on that ground, right? So he might not want to play there again. Yeah, no. If I was picking, but I'd say I'm not. I've said this on quite a few podcasts. The modern day captain's mainly a PR man. This isn't like it was back in the day of Graham Roberts and Perryman, even if you don't go back to Mackay and Blanchflower. I had the pleasure of watching play. But I mean, it to me, it's not about that. I've said it last season. When we won in 10 games, we're great. We're good flat track bullies because we got the skill in that. When we move the ball fast and quick, we buried teams last season. Like we overpowered them, and then we outrun them in the last 20 minutes. So I thought that was going to happen today. I thought we'll outpuff Leicester like we usually do with our fitness and get late goals. That's what I thought. Didn't happen. But I mean, like to me, I've said it in the other podcasts. I said when you look at our squad, right, where's the aggression? How many players can you pick out and say that are aggressive? Aggressive players are winners. Back in the day, aggressive players, you'd have two players fighting over the ball on a throw-in, right? That's what you want to see. I want to see yellow cards. When people were moaning the other season before we got VDV about, Romero's a psycho, he's got yellow cards, he gets sent off. You need that shithouser in your team. You need a bit of it. Because what happened, Leicester teams were coming up against us and they were bullying us. And when our midfield didn't click, and it was pants towards the end of last season, and we all know that most games are won and lost in midfield, but so was our front three. Our front three was pants as well, and yet somehow we managed to finish fifth. So what we need is aggression in there. I mean, I understand why people want to go for McTominay and all that, but you can't tell me with all this data and analysts out there that we can't find someone, right? I mean, he's a good Premiership player, let's put it that way, but he's not. Well, I mean, I don't watch Man United play every week, so I mean, like from what I've seen him miss chances in front of goal against us as well when he could have won the game. But like he doesn't look nothing special to me. But then I can't really comment. I only see us play Man United twice a season, and if I could watch any of their games on Sky, So captain, no, we need more aggressive. We need players to be more aggressive.
I mean, Johnson and Werner, two of the worst footballers I've seen at my club in 40 years. I could probably name you 40 players that I think are worse than those two. But, I mean, I think it shows where we're at the moment. And it's always easy to overreact. I had a couple of comments from where was Gary Paul Speed. I'm trying to bring this up. Sorry. really complaining about Romero. Sell Romero and play Dragusin as his place. Chang, is that one of those typical supporter overreactions, or do we think Romero's better than he actually is?
Well, yeah, I think this might be a bit of an overreaction. I'm not overly too fond of, any sort of negative, come down or hangover, despite us not losing. But that draw felt like a loss. And if you were to see Romero's positioning, especially for Vardy's equalizer, I thought that he could have done a lot better, even though, yes, in the heat of the moment when crosses are being fizzed in and you have your eyes solely on a ball, it's very easy to lose track of your marker or the person that you should be marking in and around the box. And in that one instance, I felt Romero was he was partially culpable for the free header that Jamie Vardy got off for the equalizer. And for me, I think Romero is still world class. You need only look at his recent Copa America and also the World Cup exploits with Argentina to know that he is a good defender. I think he just lacks that cover really that would, make him a proper defender here at Spurs. And for me, it's not just Romero. If you need to be calling out players that need to be sold, I mean, how often have we been saying this about the likes of Dyer before he was eventually sold? Let alone, getting rid of Deadwood that we still have the club like Region and Brian Hill and some other players who aren't really pulling their weight. So I think there are a lot more players that needs to be, sold before we can even consider dropping our vice captain. That is one of the candidates. He's one of the leading candidates. Romero is to be club captain if and when Son decides to step down from that role. But for the time being, I would still feel that Romero has a big part to play for us because honestly, I think as far as central defenders and centre backs go, he's I think one of the best that we can afford and even entice to our club currently with the climate in British football. So let's just be thankful. We still have Romero on our books. Let's be thankful that he's fully fit, because if he were to pick up any sort of injury, no, touch wood. I really don't know what.
For me, fault all but you defend collectively. You defend as a unit, not as individuals. But both Porro and Johnson completely ignored. They went near post, were ball watching, and missed the ball coming over. Neither of them had Vardy when they were both there. For me, you watch that goal again and look at what Porro and Johnson are doing, and it's just nothing.
But there again, Romero is a world-class centre-back. Vardy is their main striker. And it's very disappointing for me that Romero wasn't even looking for Vardy at that point. Whatever Johnson and Porro were doing, that is Romero's job. And I agree with Chang that, he's a world-class player. There's no doubt he can do stuff that most defenders can't do, but he is also prone to making mistakes and just losing concentration. And I don't see him as a leader. Unfortunately, I don't think he influences the game in the way that he should. And it was really disappointing to see one all with 10 minutes to go. He was still standing with the ball at his feet, showing no urgency. That's very frustrating and a sign of lack of leadership, I think.
I thought, did you notice what I noticed? I thought at times the players, and I get why, right? They would start to pass infield rather than give it to Johnson on the wing, because whenever he gets the ball, he's not taking his man on. He's coming back anyway, and the ball comes back. And I noticed that a few times when Johnson looked up to see if he was get the ball, and we just cut it into the other side. Even in the first half, we were trying for overloads down our left with Sonny Ogetti's the captain and all that, with you Doggy and Maddison down there. Apart from Johnson's shot when we nearly scored, the goalkeeper made that good save and then followed up with a shot, as well. He might as well not have been on the pitch. I mean, Decky must be kicking himself. 4 assists and 3 goals in pre-season to not start this game. And look what he gave us when he came on. He tries to go. They try to hack him down. He gets back up on his feet. He goes, and he don't lie there. I mean, there's a lot of Decky people. I mean, I'm a big fan, so I'm biased towards him. But he gives you so much more. And he got 8 goals last season, what was a very poor season by his standard. All right, Johnson got 5 goals and 7 assists last year, which is good for a youngster starting. But we bought a player that isn't oven ready. He's still got to develop. His decision making is still poor. It's still poor,
Could you see Odom Bear starting on? Ellie, could you see Odom Bear starting against Everton on Saturday or bench?
Yes, and if he doesn't start him, he'll be a fool because we didn't offer anything on the wing. Werner was rubbish. So was Johnson. His movement was good. Don't get me wrong, but he was making space for himself. But when he got the ball, he was ineffective. Didn't do anything with it, right? And he's supposed to be a winger, crossing the ball in. He faffed about too much as well. And as soon as Kulu came on, you can see the quality of Kulu is much higher. But even so, I thought, coming back on the Vardy issue, because I wanted to add something to that, he had 2 other chances as well that he got 3 of our defenders.
Yeah.
It wasn't just that chance. He could have buried that second one, not for a good save from, it was straight at Vicario, but he still had to save it. But I just thought our wing play was very poor. From Sonny on the left and Johnson on the right offered nothing. And Porro was the one who was creating the danger with his clever runs. I think we should deploy him up front and put Jed Spence as the right back. That's what I would do. Because Jed Spence, when he came on, he had legs as well. And he was finding little pockets of space. Very clever player. For a defender, he can create havoc up the top as well. But Porro was our best player until he got the injury and he was hobbling around and he still was tracking back. He still got a really good tackle in at the death. Yeah, so Porro should be up front for us because he's the only one who can create havoc. The rest of them, they faff about too much for me.
Anyone who's seen me on all social media and particularly on the streams, I've said all along that Porro should be the wide player right side. I know he's done brilliantly when he inverts, but without any defensive responsibilities, I think he could cause mayhem going inside and out. Jem, you got any view on that?
Yeah, I don't think he's a brilliant defender. I think he's a decent right-sided midfield player. Maybe you'd call him a wing back. He obviously has a shot on him as well. He gets forward. Well, he likes to get forward. He can score goals. Whether he'd have the same effectiveness if you played him week in, week out as a right-sided forward, I doubt. But as somebody pushing forward from the back, I think he's very effective. I like him as a player. I think he definitely adds something to the team. I'd be sorry if he wasn't in the team, but I don't know. I don't think he's a good enough defender to be a defender all the time, and I'm not sure he's good enough as an attacker to be an attacker all the time.
Yeah, I see him as a midfielder. I see him as a right-sided midfielder. I've been saying it for ages. I mean, when people are being critical of Decky, and I get that because everyone wants to see Decky reproduce his debut season form with goals. He came in January and got about 8 goals and so many assists and all that. I think that'll come. I think Decky's got a very high ceiling. He's still only 23, only 24, And with Porro, I was very highly critical of Porro when he came. I remember these disastrous performances he had away at Leicester, funnily enough, and away at Newcastle, right? And he's improved dramatically, and I've really seen he has got superb technique as well. He is a very gifted footballer, but wing back, it's one of these modern day Ponzi descriptive narratives, which I'm not keen on, because basically, if being a wing back means you're absolved of defensive responsibility, I don't want you in my team, right? So, and he's improved defensively. He has, right? I see him as a midfielder, and he could play.
Adrian, I'm gonna come in here. You say about a midfield player, but he either plays as a right back, an inverted right back, or he plays right forward. I mean, he doesn't play in place of Maddison or Bentancur or Gray or Bissouma. He doesn't play in place of any of them and the others that I haven't mentioned.
But he has got an engine on him. He's got an engine on him. He gets up and down the field like a box-to-box number 8. If his defending's in question, you could play Spence behind him, or if you brought in someone like Vanderson, who we've been linked with, who looks a tremendous player to me, you could play Vanderson behind him and take some of that defenses. Plus, he'd give you a bit more bite in midfield. When our midfield works, when we got like mainly ball players in there, it's great. But when we're struggling against a team that presses us and we're not doing so well, we get overrun. We get overrun because, as you've all stated, this is why you fancy a player like McTominay. But I think we can do better than that. Surely there's got to be better than that out there. If you want to be able to bring a dog of war on, you don't necessarily have to start with someone like that. It all depends how the game goes. I mean, like, Ange is not frightened to make his substitutes. He made enough today. And actually, I thought, we sort of got a grip back on the game. When we got Bergval's calmness on the ball on that pitch, it seemed to steady us, and we seemed to we looked the only team, I thought then, that they might have tried to get us on the break, but we looked the only team that would score, but we didn't,
Let's talk about Solanke. What do we make? I know you probably didn't see, well, he probably was better in the first half than the second, but Chang, what did you make of Solanke?
Well, from the few opportunities, or rather the few times he had the ball with him in that second half, I saw enough of it to know that I think he will come good for us. Whether that's going to be this coming Saturday against Everton, I really do hope so, sooner rather than later, because the fan base will no doubt probably be having another go at Richarlison, especially with that missed free header. I felt that if it was Kane or even Solanke or even Son for that matter, on the end of that Kulusevski free kick towards the end, I would at the very least expect a shot on target. And for me, seeing Solanke getting those few shots on target, which I saw him do in that second half, tells me that, I think we should be all right with Solanke going forward, assuming you can keep him fit, assuming we can keep him in good form, assuming that the assists and the passes and the crosses coming for him, much like Maddison crossing for Porro earlier today. So for Solanke, I am satisfied, although I felt that that second half, especially when the chances fell for him, he could have done maybe a lot better. But it's just his first game, his first real competitive game for us. He didn't get any sort of preseason with us, which was a crying shame, owing to the fact that he didn't even make it into the England squad, unlike, say, Ollie Watkins or Tony or Kane or anyone else. So that, I think, will come back to haunt us, him not getting proper preseason, much like Brennan Johnson from last season. But now that he's with us, and hopefully with the addition of Odobier or Odobert, however you pronounce his name, we are expecting big things of Solanke, because if anything, that little cameo by Richarlison towards the end there pretty much tells me that he is definitely not the solution for us going forward. And I wouldn't be surprised if a late move came for Richarlison, although I don't see him leaving if we can't find a suitable replacement. So for the meantime, we'll still be banking on Solanke, and let's just get behind him and pretty much every other single player too, regardless of their position or whether they are favourites to be starters or even fit to warm the bench for that matter.
A problem with the supply line, Solanke, Adrian?
Yeah, well, Johnson, to me, I mean, we tried on the left, didn't we, with Udogie and Sonny, and they did cut in. I mean, Son didn't have no shot, so like this is probably where he's getting the criticism. There's a few times he got down there. It was just that final ball and trying to walk the ball into the net. On the other side, Johnson was non-existent, basically. What did he do? What was his? There was no. I mean, there was even less from him, right? Ange obviously loves the player to start him today. I mean, like, we know the system. Ange wants two fast wingers who hug the touchline. And Decky's not slow. Everybody keeps on saying that he is not a slow striker because he's a big unit. He might look slow, but he is not slow. And he stays on his feet and he's got a better skill set. Johnson might have quicker feet than Decky, but he hasn't got a better skill set or a better footballing IQ than Decky's got. Not yet. Now, he's got potential. That's the difference between him and Werner. Werner, to me, has reached his ceiling and he has his limitations. Useful impact sub, but Johnson at least has the potential, you know. I mean, other good things that have come out from Johnson in the training ground. So Ange obviously loves him, but it's no good on a training ground. You've got to produce it on the pitch, haven't you? Yeah. And at the moment, all right, it's one game. He hasn't delivered. We will see. I mean, and Sonny's not finished either, is he? Let's be fair. I mean, like, he wouldn't have been picked if what you see in training isn't still good enough. I get the fans criticising every man and his dog when it feels like we've lost 2 points today, right? I get that. But Sonny will get us a hatful of goals this season, right? And he scores with left and and he's still got the pace to run inside, to be fed in and run inside. He doesn't have to have the turbo speed he had when he ran from the half wide at Wembley at Chelsea and done Louise and scored, or the goal against Burnley when he picked the ball up from our penalty. He doesn't need the turbochargers anymore. He might not have them, but he's not slow. He's not slow, you know.
Can I very quickly add something to Kulusevski before we move forward? Mr. Stroker, there was this one incident towards the end of that first half when I thought that the referee should have just let play continue. Kulusevski was taken out by a challenge, and then there was a second Leicester City player bearing down him. He got away from that second player as well, and I thought that, you know, he had already skinned those two players. He would have at least been through to make a cross or square it for someone for a tap-in. But that for me just pretty much summed up Kulusevski for me in the second half. I thought that for the most part, actually, he should have been starting ahead of Johnson. And if that little cameo by him towards the end of the second half, especially that incident which I just mentioned, him I felt unfairly being blown back by the referee for previous infringements that were dished out to him. I felt that, he is going to be he's going to play a pivotal role for us this season. Just if we can keep him in the starting 11 and Brennan Johnson on the bench as the super sub.
Ellie,
I don't think he's quick personally, but I do think he's clever, and I think that's something that is sadly lacking in a lot of the players.
Yeah,
it's probably right. Jen, while I've got you on, I'll come on to you, Ellie. Jen, what did you make of Solanke tonight? Ellie, I'll bring you in straight after.
Yes, Solanke. His general play was good. His movement was good. He found pockets of space to make himself available. His finishing was pants. That's the problem. You know, he does have a lot of chances, even when he was playing for Bournemouth. I remember when he played against us at White Hart Lane, and he had so many chances and he didn't bury any of them. But he will come good, I think. He's a decent striker. He's not the best striker. He's no Harry Kane, just put it that way. But we've lost Harry Kane and got Solanke, so we have to go with him. And I think with time, he'll bed into the team, but they have to start find him in a lot more, because I thought he was straying onto the wing quite a few times as well, because he got frustrated with the wing play, so he thought, right, I can do better than them, I'll go on the wing. But we need him to get into the middle. And when he did get his big chance, he hit it straight at the goalie. It was with quite a lot of power, but no direction, you see. So I've still got faith in him, because he's a proven goal scorer last season, and he's scored quite a lot of goals in his career. So let's see if he can up his game and start scoring for us, because we need him. That's one thing for sure, because we haven't got a lot of goals in those other players.
No. Jem, Solanke?
Yeah, I think it's unfortunate that once again we've bought a player towards the end of the window. He's not had any pre-season, not really had a chance to bed in, so very unfair to judge him on this one game. I was thinking about how he compares to Richarlison, and yeah, they do both have the same number of legs. That's all I could think. But apart from that, he can head a ball, he can shoot, he can run with the ball. He's not really a fox in the box. And I think in some ways he suffered tonight, because when we put a lot of pressure on teams, they tend to contract back and create very tight spaces. And I sense he's the kind of player that likes to run onto a through ball as much as anything. He's not really that fox in the box who's going to latch on to something, a short pass in the box surrounded by other players. I think he will get goals for us. I saw a comment that he'll get 14 to 16 goals a season. I think that's probably about right. But, for a team like us, shouldn't we be looking for our striker to be scoring 20 to 25 goals a season? If we're going to compete at the top level, we've got to have strikers who score more than 15 goals a season.
I was also disappointed, right, with a player I thought was the best midfielder last season. That was Sarr. I mean, that's because Bentancur was injured last season, Madison was injured and all that. And Sarr, he's either very good in some games or he drops off a bit. I know he's young, so he's got that on his side. But when Leicester was like getting back into the game, you needed someone like, this is where we lack the aggression and bite. And he's got it in his game to do it, but it's just like he didn't impose himself enough during this game. I mean, in the first half, to be fair, Leicester sat back because we played all around them. And that's fine while your passing game's working well. When it's not working well and you got to dig in, this was why last season, Ange out of desperation was bringing Skip and Ellie's fan of Højbjerg on, right? Which works sometimes, and other times it didn't when it worked on, you know what I mean? But we got through the season. But we need an imposing midfielder. Who that's going to be, I don't know. I mean, I think we'll bring one in because I don't know who. Because with Lo Celso going along with Skip and Højbjerg, that's 3 out. I know we've got 6 now with the 4 from last year and Bergvall and Gray. And I thought Gray should have come on for Sarr at half-time. I'm not sure why the subs went, in case I'm wrong on that. Because Sarr just... He was off it today. He was just off it a bit today, you know. But, yeah.
I'm going to talk about the subs in a minute, Adrian, so I don't mind my coming across you there. Just with everything been saying here and in the chat, Jem put a point in the private chat rather than on the YouTube the YouTube chat, but saying that 3-5-2. Particularly, it was actually in reference to Porro. But if you look at hunting as a, strikers hunting in pairs, if you played Udogie, you'd have to bring Dragusin in, and we've got an abject lack of cover. But if you played Van der Ven, Romero, Dragusin, then you played Porro, Udogie as the 2 wide men. You can perm 3 from probably half a dozen for the 3 central roles in midfield, and then at the moment Son and Solanke up front. That would have quite a good balance, wouldn't it? Jem, you start.
Yeah, it seems to me as if so often we're outgunned in midfield. If I was the boss, and I know it's a different system to the one Ange plays, I think we've got good defenders, but when we play 2 central defenders and two wide guys, we tend to get the wide guys get left on the halfway line, and so often Romero and Van der Ven are isolated against two or three men coming forward. So I would go 3-5-2. I think we've got the players to play that system, and I think it would allow the wide men to really run at the defenders.
Chang, you've got to go, so let me bring you in before I bring in Adrian and Ellie.
So speaking of this, about this 3-5-2, yeah, I felt that I really feel that if we still had Conte, and if Conte had this crop of players that we do have now, 3-5-2 is perfect for this system, especially when we have more than capable centre backs to play that back three in the shape of Van der Ven, Romero, and Dragoshin. And if today's game was any evidence of that, Porro is sadly for me not a right back. If it was not Richarlison, if it was Emerson Royale in right back, maybe we could have offered more defensively than Porro. But if it was Emerson Royale as a right back, we probably wouldn't have even got the goal for that matter. So there are multiple ways you can look at this, but if we still had Conte and if he had our current crop of players, yes, this 3-5-2 would absolutely cook, regardless if it's Richarlison and Son, Solanke and Richarlison, or however many combinations you can afford for that forward front two. I can honestly see the likes of Bentancur and Pepe Matassar marshalling that midfield three, if that leaves space for Maddison or Bergvall to push forward and support the two forwards. And I mean, I guess we'll never know what could have been if Conte had still been in charge and he had the kind of players that we do have now. But for the time being, I think we will still have to trust in our current formation, the current Ange ball, high press, high risk, but hopefully again on Saturday we'll have better returns. But yeah, I can see this 3-5-2 as a fallback, assuming that we have to go for the win, go all out, throw the kitchen sink at the opposition. But Big Ange, being Big Ange and knowing Big Ange, I don't think he has a plan B in mind. And today's second half and the substitutions in itself was clearly evidence that he's not going to change his philosophy anytime soon, whether it's a change in formation, a change in tactics, or even a change in his approach and style. But we never know what could have been with this 3-5-2 and if we still had Conte.
Thanks, Chang. Thanks for joining us. Have a good time at work. The rest of us have to sleep before we have to go to work. So we'll see you again before too long, I hope, my friend. Thanks for being on. All the best.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mev. Thank you, Mr. Sroka, and to Mr. Jem. Pleasure meeting you, sir. Look forward to seeing you on the channel a lot more often from now on. And everyone, fret not. It's just the first game of the season. It's still a point, although it feels like 2 points drop. Let's hope the lads pick up from where they left off in that first half, not the second half, that is. Hopefully the lads will pick up from where they left off in that first half come Saturday against Everton. And before I sign up, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs. Well done, Chang. Thank you. Adrian, let's bring you in. Ellie's had to go as well, so we're down to three. Any more dropouts?
Three Musketeers. The three Oldens. I'm the oldest, I think.
Yeah. Well, look, this is Dan's point. Let me bring this point in. Ange hasn't got a clue how to play anyway, but his way, he'll be gone by January. Let me put it back. Let me put that question to you in a different way. If the supply lines aren't there, Ange ball's dead. It relies totally on the supply from the wide areas, and we lost tonight, or we drew tonight because we didn't get good enough supply in often enough to have put that game to bed and be 3 up at half time.
The strange thing is that last season, when people were talking about, and I get it when fans get desperate for solutions and struggle to find solutions, you'd think for some fans that we played every game with only 2 centre-backs parked on the halfway line for 90 minutes. That wasn't the case. And we only conceded about 6 goals from breakaways. So to me, I said it in every podcast virtually I was invited on, that, look, we all know most games are won and lost in midfield. You're all hitting it today. We just weren't winning the midfield battle. And now you're going to struggle unless you play long ball football and hit it over the top. So, I mean, I don't think it's the system. I think the players have to take some responsibility. I mean, if you've got 2 in midfield because Maddison's not really going to defend, then surely one of you, Doggy or Porro, should be tucking into the midfield at necessary. They shouldn't both be bombing on up the field, so as when we lose the ball, they get a bigger break. And the lesser teams, they play with extra men in midfield. They don't play with a number 10 because they haven't got one. So basically, they've got extra bodies in midfield that we haven't got. Now, a lot of the time last season, we didn't get 5th for no reason. We managed to pass through these teams and win these games. But if we should be challenging for the league, and the challenge for the league, we've got to do much better, much better in midfield. And we've got to be able to defend better from the front as well. Johnson won't track back. Werner will, funnily enough. But Decky will. You know, I thought Solanke today was okay. He will press. So, like, he will work the system. You know, Son can be a bit lightweight and get knocked off the ball when the game's not going his way as well. You know, we need that body that we can bring on to help shore up the midfield when it doesn't go well. You can play with 3 skillful players in midfield. We did it with Odelar, and Villa. You know, it can work, but it means you've got to keep ball retention for it to work. You know, if the game's not going your way, you've got to be able to fix that by changing things. And like, I don't think it's the system as much. I think players as well need to. I mean, under Conte or Mourinho, I think one of the fullbacks went forward and the other one tucked in with the centre backs, didn't he? And things like that. So there needs to be a bit of IQ on the football field. Players should sense that. I mean, you should know that. I played Sunday football. I was crap, but I mean, like, even I, as a defender, knew like when to stay and when to go. You know, but yeah, I think that it's easy to sort of attack the system and say the manager's clueless. He's not clueless. He's not clueless. He's played this system wherever he's been and he's been successful with it. Now the issue is will the system work in the Premier League, right? Well, they say any system, look, all systems work and all systems fail, right? If it's not your day or you're off point, you know, you're not going to win a game, right? That happens. But will the system work well enough and consistently enough throughout an entire season? We don't know.
Dan, a couple of things you've come up with in the chat, and I'm not going to bring you on now because we've been going over now. It's gone 11 and what have you, and I want to move on to a couple of things. But you say that Ange hasn't got. Oh, hang on, sorry, I've gone on. Ange hasn't got a clue. He'll be gone by January. But then you say we had many chances, and 9 corners in the first half. Now, I'm struggling to understand how the manager can't have a clue when we create many chances, dominate the game and have nine corners. I mean, you can argue he hasn't got good enough players to put the ball in the back of the net, but I think we have. We had more than enough chances tonight to have absolutely romped that game. Absolutely romped it. Actually, I'm going to come on to Nina's question in a minute. If you, Nita, sorry, I hope you're still there. But sorry, you might want to come back on that, Dan. But it just seemed to me that we created enough chances, but it's a matter of better supply and better finishing. Sorry, that's the banners coming in. Let's
just to answer that point. You said, Adrian, mate, come we lost 4 because of Ange's system. We had more big chances than any team last system. We missed over 30-odd big chances. It might be nearer 40 by the time the season ended, right? If we'd have buried a few of them, it wasn't just on 1 or 2 games. We wouldn't have finished 4th. We'd have finished 3rd. That's the ridiculousness of the situation. But all teams miss chances. So the system certainly creates chances, right? I mean, how many did Werner miss, and how many did Johnson miss last season as well? You know, so if they buried half their chances each, you know, we'd probably be singing their praises rather than being highly critical of them, which is justified in my opinion.
Yeah. I mean, I think the system can work, but it absolutely relies on two things. It relies on when you've got the ball and you're creating those chances, you have to finish them. Then the mistakes you make at the back become much, much less important because we will get punished now and again, particularly on the counter. But this is an interesting question. She did put it earlier, and I just couldn't get round to it, was Nita's question. Who do you think has good partnership on the pitch in our team? Because I can't see it. Now, when you look back at, you know, some of the great teams that we've watched, and I'm the youngest one here. I'm not quite 65, so you know you're nearly 70, and Jem's just had his 65th birthday. So we've seen some great partnerships over the years at Tottenham. And Nita, I don't know what age Nita is, and it's none of my business, but I think that's a really, really interesting question and perceptive question about what sort of partnerships we have and where.
Well, you've had striking partnerships. We know the Archibald and Crooks, you know, the Chivers and Gilzine, and then coming forward, right, to things. Then you can go to midfield partnerships. Our dealers used to say he'd pick the ball up off the back four. He said the first player I looked for was Glenn Hoddle. The first player he looked for was Hoddle all the time. So there's not so much partnerships as more understanding. I did notice today that the players, you know, were pretty keen to give the ball to Bergvall. I think he's going to be a star for in the midfield. You know, he can look after himself. He's technically very good. You know, he gave him a slip a few times, the other players. He was a calming influence when he came on. Yeah, Archibald and Crooks, yeah, there are partnerships. You mean Toshek and Keegan, you know, you could name them back in the day, but a lot of that was when you played pairs of strikers up front, and every club had 4 strikers in their team, and now they're lucky to have 2 because they only play 1 up top. Yeah, so partnerships, I think more influential player than partnerships, more an influential players than partnerships. You know, I mean, Kane was very influential, wasn't he? As well.
But when you look at the partnership between Kane and Son, you know, I mean, for those of us, you know, a certain generation, you know, Court Marsh, Bold Lily, you know, Son assist for Kane, Kane assist for Son. You know, we don't have anything like that. And I think that's the point that Nita's trying to make.
We haven't had it since Poch, have we? When we had the desk, when we had Dele, Eriksson, Son and Kane, right? That as a unit, those 4 as a unit in a 4-2-3-1, right? Or a 4-3-3, whatever you want to call it. There's not much difference. But they worked as a unit, and all 4 of them got goals, which is where we struggle now. And, you know, I've been banging on for ages. Arsenal get 90 goals, finish second. Where we get 90 goals from? You know, I mean, like,
I think it's a really valid point. And I think that, you know, Arsenal playing and scoring goals, not giving away goals, they're scoring goals regularly, sometimes for fun. And you could argue they don't have a striker. You know, they don't have. All right, Jesus is their number 9, but most Arsenal fans don't believe he's actually a real striker. You know, quite often he's drifting off wide, and certainly Havertz wouldn't be considered a striker in most teams. But they have a front 4 or 5 who are all happy to chip in with 10 or 15 goals a season. And maybe more in some cases, you know, getting goals, Saka's getting goals. I can't see our midfielders at the moment getting those kind of numbers of goals. They just don't. They seem to lack the confidence. The one I'd like to mention before the show closes is Archie Gray, because it strikes me that he could be really pivotal in this team going forward. And he could make the difference between this team finishing 8th this season and us challenging for a Champions League place. He seems to have all the attributes, as far as I can see, to run that midfield. And it's going to be really interesting to see how he develops.
Yeah, I agree. I see him more as a substitute for Sarr as it happens in the team. I see then, although Ian sees him as a future number 6, yeah, could well be. The other thing with Arsenal is they, with their holding well from, they've got 2 that sit in front of Saliba and Gabriel. You've got Rice sits there, all sit deep. You've got is it Partey or Odegaard that will sit? They'll just sit deep and they'll protect their back 4. We don't have the same protection from ours at the moment. You know, we rely on keeping the ball and overpowering sides with our attacking play. But and then, like you say, it is. I mean, I haven't watched too much of Arsenal, but it is. When I look at their team, I think, how did they score 90 goals? I mean, I do find it a bit perplexing. But then I haven't watched them a lot, you know.
And they'll score 90 goals this season. They'll be even better.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. I mean, like, yeah, it's a worry, especially as their rivals.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, there's some chat going on in the chat that I'll bring up in a minute. Dan again on Gray. Some people don't think Gray's not ready. Some people think he is. Adrian, you come in then. You talk about these substitutes. 78 minutes. Actually, when I was doing this, putting these things up when during the game, it was 73 minutes, and by the time the game restarted, we were pushing 79. But Gray, Bergvall, Kulusevski, and Werner came on for Bentancur, who was obviously quite badly injured. Sarr, Maddison, and Johnson. And after that, we seem to get control of the game again.
Yeah. I think sometimes Maddison overplays it. Sometimes he'll turn and twist when he's got a pass on. He just wants to turn around, spin around, and have another look, see what's going on and all that. Don't get me wrong, I thought he played okay today. I think the first half, especially second half, like he was trying. He did lose the ball a few times, or there's a few times it rolled away from his foot, which frustrates us fans like mad when that happens, when you look like you're going to get an opportunity to score and all that. I mean, like, Bentancur obviously injured. Werner, he's just being brought on as an impact sub. That's his only job he's going to have. I mean, you've got Son there, Odegaard can play there, Mikey Moore not even got to mention yet. You know, I mean, like, we've got enough on the left. Yeah. So Sarr, he wasn't at his best today. Bentancur was injured. Maddison, you don't know. I think he just wanted to change. Johnson, yes, definitely should have come off. And I think Sarr should have come off. I think Bentancur would have stayed on if he hadn't got the knock, right? And Maddison just freshen things up a bit. Spence, come on. You can see there's a skillful player there. Richarlison coming on. What for? A bit of Shazri, really. For Porro, and Son went off. Okay, fair enough. Not his greatest game. So you see, we weren't brilliant, and yet we had Leicester on the rack in the first half, and we should have been 2 or 3 up, and we weren't great. So we will be. I mean, we will be better. I mean, like, let's be fair. There's 37 games to go, but you are disappointed to come out of a game 1-1. You should have won. And Leicester might have just had the.
I mean, we could be having a very different here. Jim. Adrian's alluded to it. I mean, my disappointment at the moment is that Maddison, Bentancur, and Sarr, take Bissouma out of it for the sake of this discussion, ought to be good enough to be dominating midfields and creating enough chances to feed the forwards to be winning a game like that comprehensively. And they're just not doing it, and haven't done it I saw all the pre-season games, as did Adrian. They didn't do it pre-season. The kids look better. They didn't do it the second half of last season. And really, we need to sharpen that midfield up. Otherwise, the attack's going to be firing blanks all year.
I would move Bentancur forward. I'm personally sorry that we haven't got Højbjerg there, because I think he did offer an option when we wanted to move somebody like Bentancur forward. He could hold that central defensive role. I personally don't think Sarr is going to make it. I think he's a good player, but I don't think he's good enough for us and our ambitions. Sadly, I think he'll do very well at Watford. Bissouma, he seems to have a problem in his head. Ange has already said there's a trust issue that he needs to rebuild. Whether we'll see him again remains to be seen. I think he's a very talented player, potentially, but we need more than talented players. We need players who are going to be there and consistently deliver some real end product week in, week out.
Well, we'll see, won't we? If now there'll be a clamour from Spurs fans or pressure to bring Bissouma back for the Everton game, and they got spanked the weekend, didn't they, at home? So we'll see. I mean, whether Bissouma gets back. I mean, I think he should serve a longer suspension personally, but
if we can't spank Everton, I think we've got more problems than I thought we had. I thought we'd do all right tonight. I'm bitterly disappointed still. Jem, I've had this discussion.
Gray could start instead of Sarr. I mean, Jem could be hit the nail on the head. You know, Gray could start instead of Sarr if Sarr's not at it, right? Or so then you're looking at midfield. So then you could actually be Gray, Bentancur, and Maddison, or Gray, Bissouma, and Maddison. I mean, Bergval's looked good every time I've watched him play. I've got to admit,
I was gonna bring this up, but it didn't seem relevant at the time. That is the team I would have actually started with if I was picking it. I'd have played Bergval and Kulusevski central and forward instead of Maddison and Sarr. Yeah, you've still got that problem with the two wide areas because neither of them played. But I would have thought that would have given us far more strength, far more possession, far able to hold the ball, and with more creativity than Maddison or Sarr are able to give. So that's I just put that up, but that was the team I picked to play. I didn't think it was a team he would play, but I think that would have done us better tonight than what he eventually did play. But let's talk.
You could have put Gray in there instead of Johnson and pushed Kulusevski on the wing. Then you'd had Gray and Bergval, right? And Maddison didn't play badly today, but sometimes when the going gets tough, he disappears. I mean, like he's lightweight, he can't defend. So
no.
So I mean, but this is something like, look, Ange's got a good squad to choose from, right? Until, like Jem alluded to, we start getting some understanding between pairs of players on that pitch, knowing where they are. I mean, like, I remember Perriman saying once, he said, even before they used to talk about pressing in games and all that, right? He turned around and said, even if I was caught blindside of a player, he said, I knew where Johnny Pratt and Ralph Coates would be. I would just pling the ball out blindly, and I knew they'd be there or thereabouts. It didn't always work, but a lot of the times it did when I was in a tight situation. So he knew. I mean, that's the sort of understanding you need, the sort of telepathic understanding that pairs of strikers used to have that work together,
Listen, it is a transitional period for us. There's been a huge number of changes, both in style and personnel over the last couple of years. These things don't happen overnight, unfortunately, but things do have to change for Ange to maintain his position. We talked earlier about last season, and I think it's easy to forget that after 10 games we were top of the table, unbeaten. We might have been a bit lucky in certain games. We certainly were, but if you look at the 28 games after that, it was very much middle of the table form for the rest of the season. It really wasn't very inspiring and at times not good to watch. So, we love it when Ange ball works and we go forward and we ping the ball about, lots of nice quick passing and the movement, but we don't seem to be able to sustain that for an entire game. Second half I was waiting for somebody to say it's been a long, hard season. because it looked as if the players weren't actually moving about at all. They weren't creating opportunities or options for each other in the same way as they did first half.
Well, I hope the substitutions give the little kick to those players that were taken off. Like Bentancur was like, so, and I also hope that we're still going to bring one or two more in a transfer. I'm expecting us to bring one or two more in anyway because we haven't spent a lot of money.
Well, what was your view of Bergvall and Gray, Jem?
I think they showed some nice little touches. They're clearly both talented players, but are they strong enough, good enough, resilient enough to play in the Premiership week in, week out? Time will tell.
Yeah, Dan, will you come on the show on Sunday, please? It's getting late, and I know Jem won't want to be on all night, and I've got a golf tournament tomorrow, so I won't either. So, but let me know, come back to me, please, and I'd like to. Sorry, I wondered what was going on behind my back there. I'd love you to come on the show on Sunday night. We can review the Everton game as well, and I suspect you'll have a lot of interesting things to say about that. We'd have had another one. So, I mean, yeah, seriously, thanks, Dan. Let's talk quickly about transfers. He says, looking for the right page. We got. So that's a bit wicked. We got rid of Skip today. Skipper's gone to Leicester. That was confirmed today. Adrian, good move all round.
Yeah, good deal, isn't it? And I even believe they've got a sell-on involved. I think Skipper probably see his career at Leicester. I think it's a good move for him. I wish him well. He's been a good servant. He's had a decent pre-season actually in the games he was asked to play. I don't know if it's deliberately played to put him in the shop window or not. And he's got the English tax, isn't he, for Leicester as well? Yeah, good move for him. Good deal for the club because it means now that we've now that we've sold, right, Højbjerg for 15, Emerson Morel for 15, Troy Parrott for 8.5, that's like 50, 58, Joe Rowan for 12, that's 50 mil. If you add the Skip 20 to it, that's 70 mil we've actually got in that will go in our accounts for this year, this financial year. And we bought 134 mil. We bought Archie Gray, we bought Dominic Solanke, we bought Wilson Alderbert, yeah, and Heung-min Hook for 4 mil, and so we've spent that amount of money. So actually, what we've actually spent, our total spend, if you take one on out, is 64 mil, right? But if we don't forget, Reguilon and Lo Celso are still to go out. Now, Lo Celso's in his last year of his contract, but he just won the Copa America with Argentina. Surely you can get 15 mil for Lo Celso or for Villa or Real Betis or even Fenerbahce, and apparently now even AS Roma are interested in him. All these clubs are coming knocking now because the transfer window's closed and they've got to make their moves. And like if you said on Reguilon, 10 mil even, we played 20 odd mil, didn't we, for him, I think. So if you got 25 mil on them, you'd now be looking at like we've spent like 40 mil, 44 mil. So don't tell me we haven't got enough money to go and get Eze, or if you don't get in Eze, don't tell me we can't go and get Vanderson from Monaco, who looks a fantastic right back at 23, and say Locatelli of Juventus for that amount of money. The money's there. Yeah, Ings, Locatelli, I would take both of them. I don't think Ange wants Eze. The reason I say that, as much as all of us would want him, right? I just think with Mikey Moore on the left, Vern on the left, Son on the left, Odebert can play on the left and right 4. Eze as well. I mean, all right, if you could play him as a 10 instead of Maddison, but you got Bergvall can play as a 10, Becky can play as a 10, and Maddison can play as a 10. As much as I'd like Eze, but then that would be the manager's job to play him anyway. I'm not sure Ange wants him. I mean, he might. I might be totally wrong here. I don't know what you guys think on the transfers.
I think if Ange wanted him, he'd be there by now.
Or if Palace were going to sell him.
Jem, have you seen Locatelli or Vanderson?
Yeah, and they look very decent players, and I think they are the kind of players that I'd be looking for. I do worry that we've brought in a lot of nice little footballers, lightweight little wingers and stuff, and we need more strength, physical strength, a greater physical presence, and we talked about McTominay earlier. He's not necessarily the answer, but I think he's indicative of the kind of addition that you need to the squad. I think there's no doubt there's money there. We've got 100 million for Kane, and I'm not sure where that's gone. So,
yeah, that was in last year's financial report.
I only mentioned
players that'll be in this year's financial report.
Yeah.
But you're right. Where's the money exactly? So yeah.
How many might be in Levy's back pocket? But
my only issue with Vanderson is because he's a right back, he's got all the attributes that Ange likes. Not only he's fast and strong, he's like you doggy on the right. For those of you in the chat that don't know him, but he can play right midfield. He's such a tank. He can play like wing. He'd give you a lot more defensively than Porro gives you. But then, as I spoke to me and Ian was speaking earlier on the phone, I said, well, we don't know with Ange. His mindset and getting insight to his mind is difficult. I mean, if we are, as the rumour for Vanderson from Monaco has gained gravitas, right? Now, if we're in for him at 30 mil or whatever it is, then I would get him. But then again, is then he going to be the inverted right back and Porro going to get his move into midfield and Spence still stay? Or is there a threat on Spence? Is Ange just been not wanting to throw Spence under the bus and still wants to get a right-sided player in? Because I think we need a left back. We need a left back because Davis is in his last year, and but unfortunately, the player I like, Bradley Locke in France, he's done his cruciate, so he's off the agenda anyway. There's a younger French player, looks good, played in the tournament, Dorgu, but he's 19, and I really don't want to bring another a young player in. I'd want someone in their early 20s, I mean, that's sort of good, that is good, But I would take Locatelli and Vanderson tomorrow. I would take both of them. But I don't know if Locatelli is an Ange type player or not, and I don't know the stats around Locatelli because I know Thiago hasn't fancied him at Juventus. He's playing a different system or something or other. But you don't know what's gone on. It's a bit like you might have a Tony scenario with Locatelli. I don't know, with attitudes and things like that. And now we need to get all that right before I even think of talking to a player, Because if their attitude's wrong and they're just there for the money or they don't, then don't bring them in. I don't care how good they are. Don't bring them in.
Ian, who would you bring in?
The player I would have brought in, the player I would have loved to have brought in was Eze. I genuinely think we do have little nicey players, and there's a lot of talk about Morgan Gibbs-White, and to me he's another really, really good player, but I think he's a nicey player. I don't think he's the player that's going to take you to the challenging for winning cups and challenging Arsenal and Manchester City, which is where I think we want to get to. I think Eze does it. I think my disappointment tonight was what we got from Son and what we got from Johnson. I thought they were both so incredibly poor, and that didn't give Solanke the chance. Maddison, I thought that first half hour was excellent, but he does what Maddison does. He fades. Sarr, I agree. I'd love to see him make it, but I'm just not convinced. I think he's going the route of Winks and Skip as a promising youngster that's never quite been able to step up. Locatelli, I don't know anything about Vanderson, I'll be honest with you, and I'm not sure that's the area. But I do think if we have an enforcer in midfield, then I think that will make it easier for the players further forward. I'd still like Richarlison to go, which would give us an opportunity to bring in another striker. But which one at this stage of the window? I can't give you a name. I'd like to see Bergvall start. I mean, as the team I picked is the team I think Sarr and Maddison. I just don't think they're doing enough. I'd like to see Bergvall start. I'd like to see Kulu play in the middle of the field because I think he's better there. I think if the boy Odebear looks ready, then give him a go and let's try it. I know Werner's got so many weaknesses, but the thing that Werner offers you is he actually is the player that absolutely does understand Ange. I mean, he does understand Ange ball. So I've just gone back into the chat. Yeah, Nita's gone. So hi, Nita. David's in. David's in. No, he's not in Sydney, is he? Where is David? Yeah, the other kid is.
He's in Australia.
He's somewhere. Yeah, good day, my pal. Yeah, you've woken up. You've woken up. We should have been 23-0 up at half time, but we weren't. Through 1-1. But you probably know that.
We've got a midfield enforcer, though, haven't we? We've got one, probably one of the best ones. Yeah. We'll need to play there. But that would mean playing Dragusin alongside VDV and pushing Romero in as number 6, and he could do that job. He could do that. Job.
Sorry, who is Meta Football TV? I should know that, and I don't.
Chris.
Chris, sorry, hi Chris. I mean, that's if you're still here. That's a really interesting comment. 102 attacks. I mean, this is where the stats people, 88 of which were dangerous, playing an expected 4-3-3. I don't know why the press keeps saying we play 4-2-3-1, which we don't, against 4-2-3-1, which Leicester do. Lack of precision more than the system. I'll probably go with that. You know, I will probably go with that. I think that. I think on another day we win that game. We get a second goal. I think we go on and win comfortably. But I've not answered your questions. Right, I've not answered your question, Jem, at all. I'll be honest with you.
Just answer this one. If you could take one player from the other top teams, say the top 4 teams from last season, from City, from Arsenal, from Liverpool, from Villa. If you could take one player from there, apart from Haaland, what player would you take?
Rodrigo.
Yeah, I'd probably go with that, or Bernardo Silva. One of those probably would
would make the biggest difference to us? Because I think Rodrigo's magnificent, but I'm not sure he'd make that big a difference to us.
Do you know who the player I'm thinking of that question, who would make the most difference to us in our current state, would probably be Saka from Arsenal.
Not De Bruyne.
I think De Bruyne is probably a year or two past his very, very best. I'm looking at that delivery. I live in Scotland. I've watched Ange ball. I watched him with Maeda and Jota and what have you, and the way they were feeding the ball into the box for the likes of Hatate and Kyogo at Celtic. And the delivery just hasn't been good. Tonight, the delivery just wasn't good enough. There's been other times when it has been good enough, and we haven't had a man in the box to do the finishing. Tonight, we had a man in the box ready to convert those chances, and we didn't have the delivery. And it's what I find more frustrating than anything.
Yeah, I find it frustrating when our wingers get in a position to cross the ball and they cut back rather than cross it. Because if your delivery is not perfect, what happened to the old days when you just kept pumping balls into the box, even if in the hope that the defender will make a fluff his header, fluff his lines, and the ball might fall to one of your players. This is all wanted to be too precise and too accurate. Hit some balls into the box, false errors and false errors. Like when we played Liverpool at home last year and we pressed and pressed and pressed. In the end, like as Ancelotti said, when a player scores an own goal, is it because they've made a serious error, or is it because you've put them under pressure? And when Matip put that ball in the Spurs net for 2-1, right, and we all went ape, right, at the ground, right, that to me was a forced error more than his mistake, because they were under a lot of pressure, right, even though they had a good goal disallowed earlier. But who cares? It's the Scouse, isn't it? You know what I mean? And we know what Scousers are like. If a Scouser follows you into a revolving door, he comes out first on the other side. You know what I mean? So,
yeah. Who would you take if it was one from another team? Who would you take?
Me?
Jem.
Oh,
no, Jem, because Jem asked the question.
Yeah, I would probably take De Bruyne, and I agree with you that maybe he's maybe not at his absolute best, but I still think he's head and shoulders above most other midfielders in the Premiership.
Yeah, I mean, we've got a long way to go. Right, okay. It's really sad. All our Australian pals are coming on now. We had Chang on early. He's gone to work in Malaysia, and you, what are you, another 4 or 5 hours on, or whatever you are in that part of Oz. But we are coming to the end of the show, guys. But if you haven't, can you like and subscribe, please? That's always a big help for the channel. Yeah, just some comments coming in. Peter, good morning or good evening, Peter. Good evening for us. Good morning for you. I think Bergvall will become a very good pack. Yeah, I mean, I agree with that. There's a lot of people slagging them off, but yeah,
I get the criticism, and we know, like, you pay 40 odd million for Johnson. He comes in, he's not oven ready. But he wouldn't have got all that game time last season if it wasn't for injuries to our squad. We had 22 injuries, more than any other team last season. But you can say the same for Gray and Bergvall, although Gray has probably had a better introduction, having played in the Championship and got all them rave reviews for ages. And I've liked what I've seen a lot of him before we even bought him. So I was pleased we picked Brentford to him. Bergvall, I'd watched glimpses of. But can you say they're oven ready? No. Neither of them have played 90 minutes yet for us. They need to get a few 90-minute games under their belts before we can sort of confirm what we suspect. And I believe they're both going to be stars. But we need to see them play 90 minutes, and they're 18-year-old. They're both 6'2", but as they're 18-year-olds, how's their stamina? Have they got the stamina for Ange ball? How many games can they play as 18-year-olds? We're asking a lot, It's asking a lot of them. So I think Ange will rotate the squad a lot he's got. I still think we'll get a couple in. I don't know who. Hope Paratici's working his magics, and hope Johan Langer is going to pull another rabbit out of the hat that no one's heard of. We'll see, but we just don't know. With other managers, you knew where they wanted and who they were after, but you don't know with Ange. You just don't know.
I think tonight showed we do need another couple in at least. And we might need to make some ruthless decisions about who stays and who goes. With players like Sonny coming to the end of his days, and Johnson, who's 40 million and doesn't. Peter in the chat there. Johnson plays like a scared little boy. Just harmless potatoes just come on. Hi there. Hi. I'm sorry people are just joining us. We're wrapping up, but we're not going all night. Just not going all night. Jem, there's one thing you won't know, and we have a little thing for our guests at the end of the evening that are on for the first time. So a few questions I have for you, some of which I'll absolutely know the answers to, but not all of them. First of all, you have to tell us, how did you become a Spurs fan?
My dad was a season ticket holder since wartime. My grandfather was a season ticket holder since the 20s. I didn't have a choice. So I've had a season ticket holder since 1965.
And you saw the Beatles in 1965 as well?
I did, yeah.
Was it at the Cavern Club or was it elsewhere?
Yeah, it's the only person I know that saw the Beatles.
They'll never make it either.
No. We think guitar bands are on the way out, unquote. Yeah. Okay, your favourite ever Spurs player?
Oh, for me, it was Greavesy. He was my boyhood hero. I got to work with him for a few years during the 80s. He was always an absolute gentleman, a delight to work with. So there'll always be a place in my heart for him. But we've been so privileged over the years to see the likes of Hoddle and Gaza and Klinsmann and Ginola. and I've loved all of those. Greaves will always be top of that pile, but we've been very privileged also to see Harry Kane for so long at his absolute best. That's in modern times. He's come as close as anybody to Greaves.
We ask all the guests the same questions next time they come on as well, Jim. So we'll have you back, obviously. Yeah. But we won't ask you how you become a Spurs fan next time. But basically, you pick a favourite player, and then Ian will ask you the next question.
Adrian says you should tell people you're going to ask them that, but I think it's more fun to put them on the spot.
Yeah.
What their intuitive reaction is. Yeah. So, how about a special Spurs victory, one that you'll remember to your dying day?
Ajax was the greatest moment, even more so than Ricky's goal against City. For me, it's Ajax. Yeah. It was so unexpected. It was such an unexpected, amazing, incredible moment in time. I still in a moment where I'm feeling a bit down, I'll stick that video on and it'll bring a smile out.
Actually, just to remember that you used to have an old, I think, a Betamax system where everybody had VHS, or maybe it was on the Philips one. You had that when we beat Arsenal, beat Wolves, 3-0 at Highbury, and we watched that. We must have worn the tape out. Never mind about the machine. Okay. And the last question then, a favourite special Spurs goal?
Favourite Spurs goal?
One. It has to be one special goal.
You have to have one.
I suppose just for that memory, Lucas Moura's goal against Ajax, but Sonny's goal against Burnley, to be in the stadium to watch that goal was incredible. But actually the one I think of the most is Kane's curler against Arsenal. I was right behind it and watched it heading out towards the corner flag and then somehow diverting back in and hitting that far post and going in. That was
you ripped the mask off. Like the one where we ripped the mask off.
Yeah.
I think it was, wasn't it? And we still couldn't beat them with 10 men that day, if I remember correctly.
Amazing moment, though.
Okay. An hour and 3/4. I'm going to end it there. Sorry for the people that have just joined us from down under, but just otherwise, I'll never get some sleep, and people have got work
tomorrow.
Who's back tomorrow?
I'm back tomorrow. I'm doing the
it's back tomorrow, isn't it? The Tuesday show, Friday show.
That'll be at 8 o'clock.
And I will be back on. So you talk about tomorrow, because then I'll wrap it up.
Okay. For those in the chat that don't know, we do shows mainly Tuesdays, Fridays, and Sundays at 2000, 8 o'clock p.m. UK time BST. We do 3 shows a week. We will do more earlier shows when we get our other admin Chang up and running when time suits him in Malaya. So there'll be like afternoon shows that probably start about noon because he's 7 hours in front or 7.5 hours in front of us. But like we also have a Facebook group with 14,000 members, Spurs Diehards TTID Facebook group for those that use Facebook. And you will find that in my featured section there, I put a lot of the archive games, old favourite games that these guys here will have watched and seen us play and win. I'll put them in the featured section so people can go and have a look, and you can find your favourite goals and Spurs players in there for when we ask you if you're a guest on our show. But thank you all, as usual, for putting up with us at this late hour, and I'll hand you back to Ian.
Yep, so absolutely. If you haven't, please like and subscribe. That helps the channel grow enormously. David picked up that comment. We'll watch it back on playback. Yeah, before you came, we had Ellie and Chang. Ellie had to go and deal with family stuff. Chang had to go to work. Other than that, I think I need to just find the right bit to close the show down. But thank you, everybody, for joining us. And we will see you all again, for those there, tomorrow night. And I will be back on Sunday, maybe do a Sunday morning show, maybe do a Sunday evening show, all to be advised. So thanks for joining us, and take care, everybody.